Hi guys, Rasmus here. I'm back with another Riffing with Rasmus. Today we're taking a look at a very low gain and very slow tempo black metal riff. So it's very simple. It's kind of the opposite of hitting as many notes as possible. This is almost hitting as few notes as possible and trying to have the gain low so that we can actually hear what we're doing. So just for that part of it, I'm playing on the blue channel on my EVH. So that's kind of the crunch channel, and I have the gain at about 11 o'clock. So really I don't have a ton of gain, it's like this. I can get it to distort if I pick heavily, but it's not like there's a ton of distortion. So just before we get into the lesson part of this video, I just want to mention that my band Vile Retribution has a new song out called Mirrored and Violent, and I'll leave a link to that below, which you can check out, and I hope you will. A lot of the riffs that I present in these videos, they come from writing sessions between me and Jonas, the drummer, and we sit and jam out riffs, and some of them I'm like, that'd be pretty good to show and make a lesson about. So same with this, it's a song that we're in the middle of writing, and this is just the first riff that I came up with a week or two ago, and I thought this is something different that it could be cool to make a video about. So that's where a lot of the riffs come from. So let me just start by playing the riff for you, so you can hear what's going on. So that's the riff, and in the little intro song section I just repeat that twice. So all we're doing is we're playing minor chords on the top 5 strings, so it's the same shape that we're just moving around. The 5-string bar chord shape, you know. And we start by playing it down here on the open A string. Notice that instead of fingering like this, where with my index finger on the 2nd string, I take it as if I were to do a bar, but then just use the kind of the nut or the 0 fret as the bar, right? So instead of having like this, I can just move down and do like this. The idea here being that then if I started out fretting like this with my index finger on the 2nd string, I would then have to change my fingering as I moved along. Whereas if I start with my middle finger on the 2nd string and then use my pinky and my 3rd finger to take sort of the power chord part of the bar, and really just do the regular bar shape just without the bar, it makes it a lot easier to move around because it's all just the same minor shape that we're moving around. So anyway, we start with this A minor chord. So what I'm doing there is my first stroke I'm hitting with a downstroke, and I'm hitting the 5th and the 4th string. So basically a power chord. I might also hit the 3rd string a little, but again, I don't emphasize it. I'm just emphasizing the power chord part of this, which is the 5th string and the 4th string. So I'm doing that with an upstroke. Next, I do that with a downstroke. Next, with an upstroke, I get from the 1st string, I get the top 3 strings, and again, maybe also a bit of the 4th, but I'm emphasizing the top 3 strings. So far we have. Compared to just playing the whole chord 2 times, would just be like. And instead this kind of gives 2 flavors of the same chord, so you have. And you might actually have to pick fairly hard on that upstroke because you want to have the sound overpower the bottom strings in the sound. So if you play really hard on 1st and then softly on the upstroke, then you will still primarily hear the power chord. So you want to make it sound like that. Next thing we do is that I just alternate pick. I guess you could just do it with downstrokes, but I played the strings 5, 4, 3, 2, and 3 and 4, so. And end on the 5th again, so. So it's just picking each of the individual string, holding down the chord from the 5th string up to the 2nd string and then down to the 5th again. Just hitting one time on each string, so 5, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you take what we have for the entire first chord, it's this. And remember to let the chord ring out while you start doing that arpeggiation. So we want the top strings to still ring out. So when we start doing the arpeggiation, we don't want to mute it. We want it to sound kind of open and lush and maybe a little bit chaotic because, well, it is sort of a black metal feeling that we're going for, right? It's not supposed to be super tight and super precise. So that's the first chord. Next chord, we move up to the C sharp here on the 4th fret. Again with just a bar shape, and now we then use our index finger as the bar. And what we do here is similar, but instead of doing a downstroke and an upstroke, we do 2 downstrokes. So we start with a downstroke that hits the 5th and the 4th string, so. And then we do the 2nd downstroke, which hits the 4th string and then the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st, so. With emphasis on the top string, so like this. So far we have. And we could also do this with an upstroke, of course, but just gives a slightly different sound to do it with 2 downs, with doing it with 2 downstrokes. So next we move up 1 fret, so we're on the A minor, and then we take from the top string and we sort of rake down or sweep, I guess you could call it, and play the from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th string. So. And then when I get to the 5th, I turn around and I also hit the 4th and the 3rd again, so. You could also just do this with alternate picking. This is just what feels more natural to me, so. On the 2 last notes there, I am alternate picking it, so I'm sweeping down. And then I'm alternate picking on the last 2, but you could also just alternate pick it all. Or you could even down pick it also. If you were so inclined. Again, find out what's easiest for you. No sizes fit all, right? So again, from the chord before we have. And that's the first main part of the riff, so we have. So for the second repetition, I guess you'd call it, we start by playing the A minor again in exactly the same way. So, but instead of moving up to the C sharp, we move up to the D, and then from D we move down to the C sharp, and we just play this rhythmic chord pattern. So just stroke the entire chord. So. So playing that entire second part is. And again, what I'm playing up here is just the A and then a minor, and then I go down to the C sharp minor. So just 5th fret, and then I move down 1 fret. So. For the 3rd repetition, we played the exact same thing that we did in first, so. We played the C sharp with the 2 down picks, and then we played the D here with the sweeping from the top, or however you wanted to pick it, right? So. And then for the fourth repetition, we play almost the exact same as we did in the second time around, but instead of going from the D down to the C sharp, we instead go from the D up to an F, still minor. So get. So playing the entire fourth time around is. And then we start from the top again and playing it through all those 4 different variations one more time. So in all we have. So tempo-wise, the metronome in the track goes at 60 BPM, or you could also think of it as 120, but generally pretty slow, like a beat a second. And you want to try and really kind of play it as almost as slow as you can and almost kind of drag it behind. It's supposed to feel kind of slow and almost a bit doomy and held back, right? So don't try to rush it, especially with these kind of chord strokes. You really want to kind of drag them out as long as you can instead of being like, and then having to kind of wait for the first beat with playing. So try and play it as slow as you can and as much like behind the beat as you can, but of course still being in tempo, right? So. And the second part I want to emphasize here is the low gain. So really, there's not really any part of this riff that requires a ton of gain. You know, typically you would require a lot of gain for playing like palm muted stuff, like to make them sound kind of full and so forth. But we're not really doing any of that here. There's no tremolo picking. There's no palm muting. It's all just pretty much open chord, right? So really try and challenge yourself and see how low can you go with the gain. You could of course also play it clean, but how low can you get the gain and still have it sound cool? So either do that by turning it down on your amp or just by using the volume up on your guitar, right? So instead of I could try and turn the volume down a lot on my guitar here. Even more. It gets a little harder to play the more you turn down the gain, because the more easily you're able to hear your mistakes, and also the notes don't ring for that long because there's less compression. But really try and challenge yourself to, you know, in general when you're writing riffs and playing, don't always just crank the gain. Try and have the gain as low as you can, and still try and write metal riffs with really low gain. Because when it comes time to record, recording with low gain gives a lot clearer mix. So it can really be beneficial to be used to playing at low gain settings. Because yeah, probably when you're playing live and you're playing lead part, you will probably have like a tube screamer and, you know, and a ton of gain, and that will be great. But when you're in a studio, being able to actually record a part, especially black metal parts, there's a lot of them that actually don't really need that much gain, right? So if you're also just playing kind of the typical kind of tremolo pick chords, they would work with this amount of gain too, right? So. Probably not if I had some palm muting in there, but just playing the chords by himself, so. I actually don't really need more gain than that. So generally, if you're recording riffs like this, try and have the gain really low, because that means that you can push the guitars really forward in the mix without it just being like a ton of noise. It's gonna be really clear, and you're gonna be able to hear the drums and the bass and everything, and it's just gonna sound a lot better if you have a lot less gain. So practicing playing and writing riffs with less gain is definitely a skill worth improving. So that was all I had for you today. As always, if you like these lessons, then please subscribe. It makes it a lot easier for me to allocate the time to do more of these, and I want to do more of these. I think they're fun, and I like the reaction that I get back from them. It seems you guys really like them. So yeah, again, subscribe to my channel. Maybe consider checking out my band, Riff Retribution, link in the description below.